Welcome to the Real Estate Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Lipsky of Break of Day Capital. I talk to leading experts to discuss a wide range of subjects to educate investors on best-in-class practices to build legacy wealth and positively impact communities. Let's jump in. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Investor Podcast. Today on the podcast, we have Break of Day Capital's Director of Asset Management, Tim Chui. Tim started his career as an associate analyzing equity and fixed income opportunities before becoming an analyst, focusing on acquisitions. He then moved on to become a portfolio manager and then an asset manager responsible for 54 multifamily assets throughout Southern California with over 12,000 units and valued at over $5 billion. He then became a senior asset manager with a company that was very aggressive during the latest run-up, having to work through deals that were over-levered and underwater. Thanks for joining us, Tim. Most investors rely on gut feelings, shiny brochures, or hype, and that's exactly how people miss red flags and lose money. At Break of Day Capital, we do things differently. We help investors make smarter decisions before the deal ever hits your inbox. From our educational webinars to our Invest Smart book to real tools like our portfolio tracker, we're here to give you the edge most investors don't even know they need. If you've been valuing our podcast and want to take the next step, subscribe to our newsletter. You'll get early access to webinars, new investor tools, and market insights sent straight to your inbox. Break of Day Capital, because smart investing starts before the deal.
Financial advisor Bromley Palamountain of Northwestern Mutual empowers people to make their financial dreams a reality through purpose, clarity, and design. Be sure to check out his links in the show notes. When did you first get an interest in becoming an asset manager? Because it's not something that's really taught in schools.
Thanks, Gary. And it's a pleasure to be on with you. So I started my interest in real estate pretty early on. I remember when I was a young child, I would draw buildings, and my parents thought I was going to be an architect. Of course, that was kind of lost throughout my years of schooling, and post-college, I got into finance, but I really felt like I wanted something more tangible, where the differences I make or the decisions I make can be something that's seen and felt and touched. I still love numbers and analyzing and finance, but I kind of pivoted towards real estate. And I've been, in real estate for 10 plus years, and it's been a wild and exciting ride.
Yeah, that's for sure, particularly the last few years. Yeah. Would you recommend someone taking the same path, or is there kind of like a better path you would suggest to become an asset manager?
Yeah, I had a pretty traditional path, starting as an analyst in an institutional real estate investment firm and kind of working my way up. Although I've met a lot of people with non-traditional paths. I think, we'll talk about probably skill set and what it takes to get to be an asset manager. But, obviously, working hard, high ethics, high aptitude, good business acumen, right? All those things translates to anything you do, not just real estate, not just, being an asset manager.
Well, you had mentioned other skill sets. Are there other skill sets besides that, or those were the main ones?
I think those are kind of the base skill sets, being good with Excel, being good with numbers. And we work with people every day, like the on-site teams, lenders, investors. So good with people. Those are all, some of the main skill sets you need.
Nice. So tell me your hardest property you've ever had to asset manage.
Yeah, so I had a property in Vegas that was over 500 units, and the occupancy was very, very low. So high vacancy, high delinquency, high staff turnover, high crime. Basically, whatever issues you could think of, this probably had. So I think that was a heavy lift to try to turn that property around, working with lenders, working with various stakeholders, getting to stabilize the property. We had to turn over the staffing multiple times because it takes probably a regional level person, to manage such a difficult property. So it's just a really unique circumstance. And I think I learned a lot from what not to do, right? Sometimes you learn just as much from, challenges than you do from successes.
I'm curious, what were the things, what not to do that you learned?
Yeah. So I think starting with staffing, a lot of times we try to go in and we try to fix the issues, but if the people aren't right to execute and continue the business plan, then whatever you established beforehand is just, it's mute. So I think having the right people to start with and then partnering with them and also having, I think we focus too much when we're initially hiring on the accomplishments, which is great. They're all great. But I think this specific property needed somebody with like grit and people who have failed and come back. So that was another unique thing that we typically don't look for. Obviously, like everybody should have some level of that, but this property especially.
Yeah, I agree. These C or even, D class properties, the rougher it is, it just even like a really strong property manager, it wears on them. And so yeah, you need someone that, like you said, grit, resilience is able to deal with the punches because property management is a thankless, low paying job. And we experience tons of turnover and keeping good people is really, really hard.
Yeah, yeah. Because usually good people get promoted to corporate pretty quickly.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's hard to find, really strong people that stays at the manager level.
Yep. So tell me about your biggest accomplishment, something you're most proud of in asset management over the course of your years.
Yeah. So I think other than, at the property level, turning properties around and really seeing the team succeed, I think one of the biggest accomplishments is when I was at Essex, which is property, it's a real estate investment trust. So I was on the team that basically shifted our whole business plan for 250 plus properties, 65,000 units to centralized leasing and personnel. So we created leasing hubs. Basically, we have such great density in certain markets that we're able to consolidate teams to have leasing hubs that are in charge of anywhere from 5 to 8 properties. And a lot of it was virtual tours, a lot of smart technology integration. So we have to work with a lot of internal and external stakeholders. So obviously working with a lot of different teams internally, but externally working with vendors, even the smart lock installation. We found out halfway through the project that we had really weak Wi-Fi or bad cellular network at some of our properties there. It's like concrete wrap structures. So we had to install routers throughout the property so they can know where they're going as they're doing self-guided tours. So just a lot of little things like that. But at the end of the day, with a staff of 1,800 people, I think, and as payroll is one of the largest operational expenses, we're able to trim, 30+% of the payroll within a 2 to 3 year time frame. So, and for a $22 billion real estate investment trust, that's tens of millions of dollars of value created.
Well, that's a massive,
Yeah,
massive project.
huge project. Yeah.
And really ahead of its time because I could see that becoming more and more the norm going forward. But you had done this how many years ago?
This was 2001.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Um, and how long? Obviously, any massive project like that, there's going to be bumps in the road. How many months into the project did you feel like, okay, now we're really clicking?
Yeah. So with such a massive project, we had to do it in phases. So we did it by kind of regions. And I think after the first kind of cluster or two of properties that were completed, we kind of got a really good feel. How long it takes for the vendors to install the smart locks, the smart systems, and then we're able to troubleshoot a lot of initial like technical issues, whether it's people having issues on their apps or routing to certain units, signage, stuff like that. So logistically, we're able to iron it out pretty early.
Nice. So, what are some of the biggest challenges you're facing today as an asset manager?
Yeah, so I think the majority of the issues are probably more macro. So the interest rate is a huge issue that's impacting cash flow and just the overall profitability of the property. Rent growth kind of flattening in the Sun Belt, it's hurting. And then obviously, renters being more price sensitive. That's, a challenge as well. And also staffing. I think staffing, whether it's turnover, like you mentioned before, it's a really thankless job. Nobody compliments you when you're doing a great job, but you get all the complaints. So I think finding the right people, having your interests aligned, and then obviously managing things that are beyond our control, right? Like we want to control the controllables, but things that you can't control are still you're still responsible for. So trying to manage around those things and come up with ways to cut costs, implement smart technology, right, to seamlessly integrate various parts of the business. I think those are things that, we're facing today.
Yep. Is there a tool or a resource out there that you think maybe is not worthy of its hype, or maybe a tool or resource out there that you absolutely love and can't live without?
Yeah, so I think on the front that, things that it's overhyped. I think a lot of these all-in-one dashboards built by people who don't have real estate like background is an issue because a lot of times we have to tweak a lot of metrics, and we've tried a few of these. I'd rather have a lot of detailed reports that we manage on the back end, because a lot of times when they're pulling data, it's kind of like a black box. They're spitting all these outputs out and all these metrics, but we have no control of the inputs or seeing how the numbers flow through their models or their BI system. So those things I'll be wary of. These all-in-one kind of dashboards or managers. I'll really want to know like kind of what the experience of the team is. If they have somebody with operational background that's building the product out. And then something that I'm really excited for is Elise AI that we started implementing at a lot of our properties. So that's gonna help us, go down the path of some sort of centralization, whether it's with leasing, with maintenance, and integrating a lot of trying to integrate AI into our own business as well, right? Whether it's repetitive tasks or laborious tasks that we can automate, whether it's a lot of reporting or various market reports that we can summarize and schedule out. So those things are probably the biggest opportunities.
What does a typical day look like for you? Sometimes I get asked that question, and so I think for people that are looking to become an asset manager, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, well, it's pretty unique for me because I do have another role, which is acquisitions. But just speaking to the asset management side, every day is different. Like, I talk to our regionals pretty much every single day, and there's always something going on. When you have multiple properties, thousands of units, and working with lenders, working with different vendors, they're just no days the same, which is kind of why I love this job because you don't go in and have a set of tasks that you have to do. Of course, like every job has that. But mine, a lot of time is dealing with people, right? Like they will bring me issues that they escalate beyond the regional to the ownership level that we have to deal with. So there's no days the same. My one day that's kind of consistent is our meeting days, which is Tuesday weekly. Basically, most of the day I'm meeting with all our teams, going through previous week's metrics. How can we adjust? How can we iterate moving forward?
And you visit the properties on a monthly basis, and talk to me when you go to the properties, what are you looking for? What is your besides walking unit, like what do you hope to achieve when you're visiting the properties?
Yeah, a lot of times when At the properties, some of the things that you see that are wrong aren't talked about during the meetings. Those are the things that, I kind of have an eye out for, that a lot of people or managers are like, oh, it's just how it is. But you really get to, like, dig deeper. And a lot of times just, they're not going to be as detailed on going through units. So I always walk, units that are about to be moved in, because those are the units that are ready. I want to make sure they're good. I'll walk the site, walk the property, drive the neighborhood. If I have time, I want to shop some comps to make sure that, one, they're still, doing what they're doing. Sometimes their business plan will change. If they sold a property, they're trying to renovate, so they're trying to push rents. How is that impacting us? So just being in the weeds, once you're at the ground level, you're able to see a lot more of that compared to just the weekly meetings.
And do you have any key metrics that you focus on? I mean, obviously there's occupancy, but what are some of the other metrics that you really hone in on?
Yeah, I really like economic occupancy, because that takes into delinquency, concessions, and everything else. So that's a metric I really like. Obviously, looking at the trend, trying to schedule out, the trend occupancy I look at as well, and kind of netting out and trying to figure out our projected occupancy. And then obviously financials, right? We have a ton of measures and trying to figure out, whether certain things are, is it correlating to the activity? For example, is our application fee that we're getting on the financials correlate with the number of applications? Is our pet fee correlating to the number of pets we're getting? Is it dropping? Why is it dropping? So I think everybody can point out the what, but trying to figure out the why behind the numbers, it's kind of where it takes more time and experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of experience, what are some of the changes you've seen in asset management over the years, and where do you think things are headed to, as far as maybe technology or different apps or whatnot?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail around the head. It's technology, both on the management and investment side and on the consumer side. So starting with the consumers, they have a lot more visibility and a lot more ways to compare rents and different properties, which means that they're going to be much more sensitive to any changes, because they have all the tools in the world at their in the palm of their hand. So I think having that, you have to be much more adaptable to what competitions are doing, what kind of concessions they're rolling out. And then I think on the investment management side, obviously, we're trying to build and integrate AI into everything we do. And on the management side, at least AI, we have, automated calling, we have dashboards and BI systems that track, performance on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. So I think technology is just kind of integrated in everything we do. And that's really sped things up in terms of how we had to iterate and think about the business plans.
Yeah, I mean, that price sensitivity, like you mentioned, is something that I'm thinking it's the last year. I don't know, it could be longer, but we've never have faced such price sensitivity like we faced before.
Yeah. Even within the same property, a lot of times, if we reduce rents to try to get more occupancy, people want to transfer because they see their leases up and they're like, hey, I can get the same unit that's slightly cheaper. Can I do that? So, yeah, people have much more information. I feel like it's never been more balanced than it is now in terms of the investor and owners, and then the consumers and renters.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Tim, I appreciate you coming on the show and adding a ton of value on asset management. I know over the last year, you've been such a huge asset to us and our investors, and we're so glad to have you on our team. Any last comments?
No, it's been a great year. And I'm looking forward to a lot more that I can do with Breaker Day and with
Yeah,
our investors.
absolutely. Well, this is Gary Lipsky signing off. I'll be back next week with another informative episode on the Real Estate Investor Podcast. To all of our listeners, thanks for joining us. And if you like this episode, please head over to iTunes or Stitcher and like, subscribe, and leave a review, as it will help us reach more people. And if you'd like to learn more about what we do at Break of Day Capital, head over to our website at breakofdaycapital.com and sign up for our newsletter and fill out our investor application. We'll talk to you next week.